Welcome, everybody, to another episode of the Health Movement Podcast. I'm Derek. I'm your host. I am a teacher of over 20 years and a certified personal trainer. We have an awesome guest with us tonight, which I will introduce in a second. But before I do, we are not doctors. So before you go changing any fitness programming or nutrition or anything like that, please consult with your physician. All right. Now that that's out of the way, with me tonight, we have Christine LaVopa. She is a health and fitness coach for high-performing women in teams. And I'm not even going to tell you guys how many takes that took for me to say that. Hi, Christine. Thank you so much for joining us tonight.
Hi. Thank you. Thank you for inviting me on. I can't wait to dive in.
Yes. Is there anything else you'd like to add to your title that I didn't?
It's like quite a title. It's a tongue twister. I'm a health and fitness coach for high-performing women. I work with a lot of, executives, attorneys, doctors, but not just the profession, just women in general that are high performers, type A personalities, very goal-driven type of women. And I also work with corporate and startup teams. So I go in with my team and we do health and fitness inside the workplace, but you also get to do it outside of the workplace because, let's be honest, it's all connected.
Oh,
So,
100%,
So I go in with my team of people and we just, set up the workplace so it's wellness and and also productivity, high performing, obviously, but you get to take that home with you and you get to spread it to your family as well. So
that's awesome. And then give us a little background on how you got started in all this, if you don't mind.
Oh, goodness. So I've been coaching for probably almost 4 years. I'm going to be 44 in June, so I'm like doing the math, like don't math in public. But yeah, so, but yeah,
No
so I've
judgment.
been, it's okay. But I started out as a physical education teacher. And I also was a competitor in a prior life. That's how I actually met my husband. He is in the military, so I'm a military spouse. We are on our, giving all the cliff notes here, 10th move. 11th move in 10 years. I lost count, and we're moving to Spain for the next 3 to 4 years. He's going to be in command of USS Bulkley. So they were in the news recently for shooting anti-defense missiles for Israel. Yeah, a little scary, real life stuff. But yeah, he's doing that. I'm doing me, and we're just making it work.
Well, that's awesome. You guys
amazing kids, 6 and 3.
Oh,
cannot
awesome.
Forget them. They are like my pride and joy.
So. And they went to bed okay, roughly tonight? Or was it party night?
Probably still up listening. Yeah, you might see some of them in the background. So everybody in our family's type A, so everyone wants to be in control. So it's a little bit of a...
How's that go when you guys are picking dinner at night? Is that...
It's usually very low key. We have a protein source. We have whatever carbohydrate they want and a vegetable. And we try to just make it work that way. I'm really big into batch cooking. So, get that done. And when I'm solo parenting, like I have been for the last 2 months, you just kind of be efficient at things and have a routine.
Gotcha. So when you say batch cooking, what are some go-to meals? Because I like doing that myself too.
Definitely. There's a lot of we do like tacos, we do chicken, we do shredded chicken, I do chicken bowls. Sometimes I do fish. My daughter likes salmon. My son's a little bit of a picky eater, so he will eat eggs all day. So I can at least get that source of protein in him.
That's good.
Yeah. But it's like the bane of my existence that he doesn't like a vegetable, but I'm trying.
How old is he?
He's 6 going on 50, but just like an old man.
Give it a little time.
Everyone keeps saying it's a phase, but this has been like a 5-year phase. I'm ready for the phase to stop, but it's all right.
I think if you roast it with a lot of brown sugar and honey and all that other good stuff, you can trick them into eating it.
Yeah.
That kind of defeats the purpose of eating vegetables, though, is to...
Exactly. So I used to actually get the capsules and put it in his yogurt. And so this way he's getting some kind of micronutrient into his life. But, one time he called me, he's like, "Mom, what are you doing?" I'm like,
it's muscles. It's extra muscle.
Yeah.
That's awesome, though. It sounds like this is your life. You live this life that you're teaching and coaching everybody else.
Yeah. So I've lived this my whole entire life. I've been an athlete since I was 4. I played competitive softball. I loved every sport. That's why I went to phys ed. I actually wanted to be a DPT, and then I switched my major to phys ed in the 11th hour. But
Yeah.
hindsight's 2020. But it's fine. I'm not even using my major right now, technically, but I still get to heal people through movement and medicine. And movement is medicine. Nutrition is medicine. And I look at it very holistically. You can't just have the exercise and nutrition, because you still need to look at the sleep and the stress management. Everything has a part and a piece in the puzzle. And I see a lot of high performing women just trying to pound that square peg into the round hole, and they just don't understand why. Like, why isn't this working? It's because we're not looking at it from a holistic approach. And, everybody wants instant gratification, and
Yes.
that
Yes.
is not how this game is played. You can't Amazon Prime it. It's
Nope.
earned. You
No.
can't return it. Please just
You
build
can
it.
get your whey protein here in a day or less, but
Yes.
yes, you
Yeah.
gotta. It's the
Yeah.
longevity piece.
Yeah,
And I
exactly.
like how you mentioned the high performing women, like obviously type A, or maybe not, but like
No, they're type A.
super driven. And yes,
Yes.
yeah,
Yeah.
and people are like, all right, if I need to be successful, I need to work 20 hours a day. I need to do all this. When in hindsight, it's detrimental. And if you made sure you slept 7 hours, 8 hours, maybe if you can squeeze that in there, you will be so
Yeah.
much more successful in the time that you're working, because you have that recovery, that sleep. Um, so when you go to work with somebody, can you give me kind of like a run through from like the initial consultation to setting up a plan to work with it? And I know everybody's different, so obviously each plan is going to be different, but what do you normally see when you sit down with somebody?
I always do a fitness analysis, before, because I also train my high performing women. It's not just the nutrition. I actually personal train them virtually 3 times a week. So I have tiers, some people, like, I just need that accountability, and
Yeah.
other people get the most benefit when I am messaging them every day. I'm in contact with them. We are in it together. And I always tell people I don't let my clients fail. And I don't mean that I don't let them make mistakes, and it's not letting them make mistakes, right? It's going to happen because that's
Oh yeah.
growth and that's learning. And we're learning kind of a new language, because we're not banging our head against the wall trying to see what's not working. We're doing it in a way where it's holistic, and you're going to, have some pitfalls, and that's okay. But what I usually do is I see where their assessment is, I take their goals, and, a lot of the times it's weight loss, fat loss. I do have some women that just say, I want to be strong. And I'm like, yeah, it's great. Let's do it.
Yeah.
And when it's weight loss and fat loss, I always ask them to make a goal outside of that measure. You know,
Good. Good. Yeah.
there's got to be more skin in the game. Like, why are you doing this? It can't just be for the weight loss. It can't just be the fat loss. It can't be for the aesthetics, because that's not going to work long term.
No.
And then we try to figure out a plan, like what do they consider progress? And they really get down to the root of their why. Like, what's sticky? Like, why are you doing this? Do you have children? Maybe that's part of your why. Maybe, your parents are aging poorly and you don't want to be like that. Like, that's your why. Like, it has to be something else besides the number on the scale, because it's volatile. It's like the algorithm in social media. Like, you can't
Yeah.
always control what your weight's going to be. It can change in an hour, so is the algorithm.
And a lot of times with that weight, it's been a slow progression, and they might have been at that weight for 5 or 10 years. So what's going to be different this time?
Right. And
So
fat
you
loss
need
and
to.
weight loss aren't the same. Right.
Yeah.
So if you're looking at it from a scientific point of view and you're trying to build muscle, a pound of fat and a pound of muscle is still the same. Muscle doesn't weigh more than fat, less than fat. It's still a pound, but it takes
Yeah.
up much less space. And that's not going to correlate with the scale. So we kind of have to break down that wall and that storyline, that this weight, and everybody's numbers driven, right? So this is a hard part, to
Yes.
get rid of that story, because that story is not your worth. And we have to understand, like, where your worth is coming from. And that's where your strength story comes through, not just what I look like on the outside.
I think that's huge. We had a guest on, Kate Clark, who she was at a certain weight that was much more than she wanted, but it wasn't until the doctor said, all right, you need to get on medication because it's gotten too out of hand. 6 years later, she's competing on stage, a bodybuilding show, like a fitness competition. So
competition, the fitness, that type of life is very extreme.
it's very extreme. Yeah. And we did talk about that piece too, but it was like she wasn't planning on that from the get-go. It was
it's
like,
still super achievement. Like, let's not take that away.
yes.
That's for
Oh,
sure.
super. But even like 2 or 3 years into it, she noticed a huge difference. And then the coach was like, in I think it was 4 or 5 years after, like after the initial start, where she was like, hey, you could do this if you wanted to. And she's like, oh, I might want to give that a shot. So that wasn't the
The catalyst, yeah.
goal. Yeah. But it was, and I think understanding the why is huge. That's the first step. If you don't have that, you might drop 30 pounds, but it's all coming back.
Yeah.
If it's not rooted in something important, like you said, your kids, seeing your parents age. And I've mentioned a few times, my mother is active as can be. She's 70, 75, and she goes on bike rides and skis
Nice.
and pickleball. And so that's what I've seen. And
And that's what
like,
you're showing them, like that you're their
yeah,
role model. And if you start young, then they're going to take that for the rest of their life. Like I want to be playing with them and going to sports games and teaching them. My
yeah,
daughter, she can clean and press 2 pounds over her head, and she's 3 years old.
that's awesome.
Yeah.
That must
My
be
son,
fun at school or daycare if she's in there. But once kindergarten starts and she's pressing the boys above her head, that's gonna be fun.
she's 27 pounds. She's this little tiny thing, but she is strong as an ox. She drags my 50-pound 6-year-old around the house, and she's in advanced gymnastics. Like, she has this just
Oh,
awareness of her body at such a young age and control. So, and you just don't see that at 3 years old. And, I'm just looking because that's what I went to school for,
yeah.
So I was like, oh, you're jumping off the couch and doing V-ups on your bunk bed. We need to put you in gymnastics.
Yeah, this needs to be harnessed in a healthy way before everything gets broken. That's
Yes,
awesome.
exactly.
So once you get people up and going in the right direction, how long generally do you work with people, or is it like some it's a 6-month period, others you've been working with them for 10 years?
Yeah, I have a lot of people that it's a complete minimum of 12 weeks, just because it takes about 6 weeks to just get on the train, right?
Yeah.
And, psychology says it's 61 days for a habit to stick. I think that's even old psychology. Like, you need to be consistent, and you can't just, do 75 hard, no against 75 hard, but
No, but yeah.
you can't just do that 10 times a year and think that, like, that's not sustainable, right? So
No.
I use a progressive overload technique, but with their life, right? So we'll take every day, we'll do an intention. So they send this to me in the morning. It's a movement intention, it's a nutrition intention, and a mental mindset intention. And with that, they have a goal in the day and they send it to me. I give them some feedback, great. And then at the end of the day, they send me what actually happened. So every day is kind of like a cause and effect or a science project to see what happened during the day. And we do this 7 days a week. And they get to tell me in real time what's happening. And I get to give them in feedback in real time what's happening. So if there's, this is amazing, I love how this works, keep going. Could you add a little bit more protein to your dinner, or maybe add a little bit more protein to your breakfast so you're not so hungry throughout the day? Because I'm big on blood sugar balance. Like, it's a game changer. So
I'm guessing you don't have a lot of boxes of Reese's Puffs or cereals in your house. It's my guess. Yeah,
not really. No. And it's just been, it's helped with mental focus, productivity, mental clarity, irritability, emotional intelligence. Like, if your blood sugar is jacked all day, you're not going to be able to do your job well.
No. And you're crashing, and then you're fighting that crash, and you're trying
all
to
day long.
feed yourself coffee or get some more sugar in, and you get all those cravings. You get like 30 grams of protein in your breakfast, and like good healthy protein. That's a
squared away. Your good way to start the day. Especially for women in their 40s going through perimenopause, our hormones, like blood sugar is really important, because with our loss of estrogen or swing of estrogen, can also make us more insulin resistant, right? I know that's kind of like the buzzword right now, but
Yeah.
if our insulin's not working the right way and we are going like up and down all day long, then our insulin becomes less useful. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like you
You
just
become insulin resistant, and then that leads to all
to
sorts of problems.
everything,
Yeah.
and then lack of sleep, and it's just everything's connected, right? So I love this science. I nerd out with it a lot because I just think it's fascinating, but I'd love to take it, absorb it, and make it applicable for my people, right? You
Yes,
have the
that's huge.
people that are, and it's generational too. And I know this is a little bit stereotypical, but you work with your people that are like Gen Zers. They want to know why it's happening,
Mhm.
when. It's like this trust factor, right? I get it.
Yeah.
I get it. But you work with people that are like, Gen X or older, right? Then, they want to know, why is it for me? I love the science, but why
Yeah.
is it for me? Right. So it's a different way of speaking their language, because most of coaching is psychology.
Oh,
80%
yeah.
of that coaching is psychology. And writing a program is programming. That's not coaching. Like, I'm just very adamant about saying that, because a coach brings you through the roadblocks. They don't make you go around it. They don't make you go under it. You go through it together. And it's not necessarily about giving solutions. It's like allowing you to make decisions, to be independent, and not build a codependent relationship, and knowing that you have the power all along, and the coach can help you do that. Because at the end of the day, when someone says to me, like, I think I'm ready to fly, like, I know I did my job.
Yeah, that's awesome. And I think that's huge that you mentioned that there, in terms of programming, like there are tons of different programs you could write,
Mhm.
but all of them, like you just want to be exercising, you want to be moving, you want to be building muscle. So you want to hit all the major muscle groups. You don't want to overtrain. Nutrition wise, eat mostly clean, natural foods. Get rid of the processed stuff as much as possible. That isn't the hard part. The hard part is getting them to buy into it and getting them to follow along consistently, which you're right, that's huge. And in understanding they're going to mess up. I mess up. I have a snack every now and then, and it's not bad. Like that's life. You got to
Yeah.
live a little bit. You got to have that stuff, but understanding like that on days where you might not have accomplished your what I forget your intentions, your three
Yeah.
intentions, that you're not a bad person, like that's not a negative. Look at it and figure out, all right, why didn't this get accomplished today? What can we do to improve upon that so we don't make the same mistake again?
Yeah.
And if you do, then let's figure out another way that might be different than what we tried before. And I think that's an awesome approach that you're taking with people. So it's
And
way more up here.
yes.
Pointing to my head for those people that can't see than anywhere else. So I love that. Now a quick question in because you work with mostly women, is it all women or mostly women?
Mostly women. So I do also work for a company called O2X, and they are military fire police. They call tactical athletes. And those are the people that have to kind of stay ready at the ready, right? If you're going on
Yeah.
deployment, if you're in the police office, if you're fire, like those people, like first responders, high stress jobs. So I work with that clientele as well. And O2X is a company that works specifically with military, fire, and police. I think they're doing football teams now too, but I go
Oh,
in as
that's
a health
awesome.
and wellness, expert, and I help assemble their workshops. So I have like 2 or 3 years of workshop experience under my belt, and that's what I also do when I go in for these corporate and startup teams. I now have a team of people where I go in and we do, depending on what they need, we go in and we do workshops. And I have a stress management expert. I have a sleep doc. I have, you
Wow.
know, so I have all these people kind of like on my team that can say, okay, here's the plan, but now we're going to solidify this with more science and give you a plan that's applicable for you and your team, right? It's not just about the leaders, right? And if you're not doing something and you're not taking care of your health and you are a leader, that trickles down, right? What kind of message are you sending to your people if you don't take care of your health, right? If you are working 24 hours straight, like that's the culture. We have to try to, change the culture. And sometimes that's not a big cannonball splash, it's a slow drip. And that's what you want, that ripple effect to get to people. And then they start bringing it home. I have
Yes.
clients, they work out with their kids now. Sometimes I tell the clients I train their spouses, I train their kids. We do it all together
That's
because
great. That's
it's
great.
better. I call it the sticky stuff. It gets sticky when other people on board that you love because now everybody's doing it.
Oh yeah. And on those days where it's tough, they're
More
there
accountability.
to pull
Yeah.
you along, and they're not going to let you slack off. What do you say to women who, once you're like, all right, we're going to do some resistance training or something like that, and they tell you they don't want to get bulky?
I
I
love that
I don't
answer.
want to look like a dude. Yeah, you get that.
I was like, my gosh, getting bulky is a lot harder than you think,
Yes,
Like
yes,
I call muscle a luxury brand. It's expensive to build, it's calories expensive, it's
yeah,
expensive to maintain, and it's long lasting quality material. And a lot of times when I give them like, what do you want to look like? They always come to me with like some form of muscle definition. I don't even call it toning because toning is muscle. Like, let's be honest, it's just a different marketing word. So when they come to
100%.
me, it is a
Yeah, it is.
psychology, like I don't want muscle, I want to tone. It's the same thing. Let's kind of call a spade here. And I go right to it. I'm like, so
Yeah.
you want muscle? And they're like, no, I want to be toned. I'm like, so you want muscle? Like, but like, I picked up my first dumbbell when I was 15 years old. It doesn't just happen. You know what I
No.
mean? It doesn't happen at all. And you're not going to turn into a man. Like women, especially in our 40s, we need to use some form of resistance training because of the loss of estrogen and because it's much harder in your 40s to gain muscle because of that loss of estrogen and testosterone. It's much harder than it is for men. And also, that's just like the aesthetic part. It protects our bones. When you
Yeah.
lose estrogen, osteoporosis is one slip away. And let me tell you, the most injuries in the wintertime come from falling and people can't getting up. Like getting up off the floor without assistance is linked to your mortality rate.
I did not realize that. That's incredible. It makes sense, 100%. If you can't get up, then your body's not working the way it should.
I want to be doing pistol squats in my 80s. That's my
Yeah.
goal.
I
I
want
want to be dropping down like it's hot in the middle of a grocery aisle when I'm in the 80s. Like
to.
that's
Can
what
you
I want to do.
please film that? Because there's going to be obviously some sort of social media out there. We want to see you pistol squatting in
It's
the.
probably going to be something when I'm 80 because it's going to be like, I don't know, we maybe like be able to go to people's houses with the technology we
Yeah,
have. It might be
that's yeah.
something like AI avatar to do it, but I don't
Actually,
know.
yeah, that's probably going to freak me out. So we probably shouldn't
But
go too far into the future with
if
it.
you go to my LinkedIn, there is a video of me doing a pistol squat to the floor, lying down, coming back up.
Really? All right, I'm gonna have to find that. That's going in our weekly newsletter. So if you haven't signed up for that, sign up for our newsletter. It's on the website healthmovement.us. All right. So LinkedIn Pistol Squat.
Yeah, I'll send you the link.
Okay, good.
Yeah. And
Thank
it
you.
says that this move is linked to your mortality rate. Like if you can't not get up off the floor, you should be practicing getting up off the floor. Whatever that movement is, could be a surrender, like you go up, down, down with a reverse lunge into a floor and come back up. Could be, getting up from, I call it crisscross applesauce. Tell me you have a 6-year-old without telling me you have a 6-year-old. And
Yeah.
you
Yep.
get up off the floor without your arms. Like seems ridiculous, but we take advantage of how our mobility is throughout our life. Like that's why I love functional fitness. Like make it work for
Yes.
your life, And that's the stuff that sticks because, doing a handstand on your pinky looks really cool, right?
Yeah.
But if you're doing a squat, a lunge, a hip hinge, a push, a pull, a carry, a gait, like those things are functional for your life because the human body's designed to move.
Yeah. And once you stop doing it, a lot of people will say, "Oh, I'm old. I can't do that anymore." It's not
No,
because you're
it's the
old. It's
worst
because
thing
you
to
haven't
do.
done it in 20
You have
years and
no
you
mobility.
stop.
Yeah.
Yeah. There was
And
some
mobility.
stat that was going around the internet. I don't know how accurate it was, but it probably wasn't too far off. But it said something like 95% of adults will never sprint after the age of 30. Um, I don't know if that's true, but I don't see too many adults sprinting around. When you're kids, if it's recess time, there's a playground and there's a field and they just run. That's what
I
you
did
do
it
for
yesterday at the
fun.
playground. I
You
sprinted
what?
with my kids. We did. We played hide and go
Nice.
seek. Yeah,
That's
my kids are
awesome.
like almost plowing over toddlers. I'm like, yo, you got to turn, man. Don't plow over the toddler. Like, You got to
Yeah.
pivot.
But I would love that if like adults had recess time and you had to go outside and run around. Imagine how much more productive people would be if you had that like lunch break for a half hour and then you had to go outside for a half hour and play.
Yeah,
That
most
would be
people
awesome.
are eating their lunch at their half hour doing work, which is like the
Yes.
worst thing to do because you're already in a stress state while you're trying to eat, which means you're not going to digest your food and you're going to have high cortisol spikes. So, you know,
Or
yeah.
at least, yeah, or at least go for a walk after you eat. Do
Yes.
something to get
Power
the,
habits.
yes,
I'm
yes.
so into micro habits and power habits. So I call a micro habit like a movement stack, right? I do this with my teams too. It's a 5 minute. You can do this with your team. Get a stack of cards, right? And then each card is associated with a movement. So you pick like 10 cards and people picks a card, right? And then you put down, okay, 10 squats. And it doesn't have to be like crazy, like
Yeah.
sweating face off, right? But then your whole team is involved and you're just taking 5 minutes away, you're clearing your mind, it becomes exciting, and you're moving. There's power in 5 minutes. And my high performers are like, well, it's just 5 minutes. I'm like, yeah, it's better than no minutes,
Yeah.
right? And I know you're a high performer, so you might do 7 because you're a
Yeah.
high achiever,
Yes. There'll be a
So
little competition going there, I'm sure. I'm sure.
exactly,
Yeah.
exactly. And then, or walking 15 minutes after a meal. That's a power habit. It reduces your cortisol levels if you're doing it outside, helps your circadian rhythm. So you're going to go to sleep, right? It also balances your blood sugar. It's low impact cardio. Like that's a 15 minutes and all of those things and do that. I
Oh,
have a client and he's been doing it for 196 days straight. He's like, it's the easiest thing I've ever done.
it's so easy. And like, I think people, I don't know if they don't look at walking as exercise, but it's the best
Incredible.
cardio. You're not going to get hurt, which is ideal because a lot of times people push it and then they get hurt and then they can't exercise and you get such a setback there. But throw on a podcast or something.
Stack. I'm
Yeah,
only going to listen to this podcast when I'm on a walk. It's like a
yes.
reward.
Exactly. Or like even like what I'll do is I'll search something on YouTube for like nutrition or just other studies that I haven't listened to or read, and you listen to it. There's so much or you could just be present and look at the scenery if you like. It's
Yeah.
okay, or walk with somebody and have a conversation. Like there's so many different things you can do. But it's we make fun of one of my friends, not make fun of him, but my buddy Matt he is a walker and a half. And I was trying to, we were supposed to go do something, and he also is terrible with time. So there's Matt time, which is always like an hour late. Sorry, buddy, but it's true.
Yeah.
Um, I had to drive around town because we were going to go to Dairy Queen and couldn't because he wasn't back home yet. He's like, well, just come pick me up. I'm like, well, where are you? He was like, I don't really know. So we had to like drive around town to find him and then pick him up. And then he wanted to like walk home. So we dropped him off.
Send
And
me a pin. Send me a pin, man. Like,
exactly.
I don't know how.
Exactly.
Yeah.
But it's simple things like that, though, that you may get in the habit of that are all like I'm in the habit now walking to the gym in the morning. It's between an 8 and 10 minute walk. And I'm stubborn and it's freezing in Massachusetts this time of year, but I'm like, nope, you can do it.
Oh, you're in Massachusetts? I didn't know that. What
Yeah,
part?
yeah. I'm in Massachusetts, so not too far from you. Well, for now,
Okay.
and then you go to Spain, and the
Yeah. Yeah.
distance is
In
much bigger.
June. Yeah.
In
We go to Spain
June.
in June.
All
Yeah.
right. Well, at least you get one more New England winter to enjoy before going. Hey,
Yay.
good times. But yeah, no, the walking is huge. Are there any other micro habits or power habits that you would recommend to people that could be simple little things that are going to help out?
Yeah. So have you heard of yoga nidra before?
No, I have not.
So, okay. So I call yoga nidra. There's a lot of studies done with veterans, especially veterans that have PTSD. It helps with getting into release that sympathetic nervous system into their parasympathetic rest and digest. So I call it meditation for the type A brain. Because I know, like, for me, when I'm trying to like meditate and I'm just like overthinking and I'm like, I just wasted 5 minutes of my life. I can't get the back right now. And I have to think like, like all of this ridiculous inside
Yeah.
thoughts, it's noise, right? So you do this right before you go to bed. So you could habit stack it with your nighttime routine. And
Can
you
you
just,
spell this for me? I'm
yeah,
sorry. I know I sound like an
it's
idiot.
No, not at all. It's yoga. So yoga,
Yep.
Yoga, and
Yep.
nidra, Nidra.
Nidra.
Yeah.
Okay, I don't
And
sound like an idiot. I don't feel like an idiot, so that's
no,
good.
it's okay. You could look it up on YouTube. You should
Yeah.
do it something in 10 minutes, right? And basically what it does is it's like it's a voice that tells you to focus on certain body parts. So it's mind muscle connection, mind body connection. And you're going to think of other things, right? But the purpose is that you just start thinking less of other things and you keep bringing yourself back to your breath work. When you also bring it back to, okay, I want you to focus on your shoulder. I want you to, bring attention to your elbow. And it sounds like a little bit simplistic, and it is, but that's the point. You want to kind of just release that uh, tension and energy and switch over to that parasympathetic before you go to bed. So it helps you get more restful sleep. So people do this in the middle of the day instead of drinking coffee because coffee doesn't actually give you energy. It just
No.
blocks the receptors to tell you you're not tired. So what this does, it kind of like gives you like a reset. You have those like outlets where you press that reset
Yep.
button. That's exactly what it does. And it helps you just reset. You could do that for 10 minutes. You could do it sitting in a car. You could do it wherever. And it just helps you reset your mind, but also your body. And it gives you more energy throughout the day instead of just packing on the caffeine.
I like that, and the caffeine is a good point. That you start noticing people will do a cup every like hour or 2 hours, whenever
The
that
military, they
caffeine
do like,
starts.
yeah,
Yeah, and
like the
then they're like
military do a
they
lot.
tell
Yeah.
you they can fall asleep. It doesn't matter, but the sleep is terrible. It's not going to be good sleep even if you can.
No.
But again, it's tough to break that cycle though, because you're not sleeping, so then you're tired, so you're having coffee because you need to get stuff done. So it's I think it's like 2 weeks or something, a week and a half, 2 weeks of misery to get over that.
Yeah. The
Um,
withdrawal. Yeah.
yeah, but it's necessary unless you want to live in that cycle for forever.
Yeah.
Um, yeah, I don't
And
know.
people get stressed out, right? And then some people, especially high performers, are just used to operating in a state of stress, right? They
Yeah,
think that stress equals productivity. They think that being busy equals productivity when being busy is just being busy, is prioritizing, right?
yeah,
And the number one excuse, which I'm sure you've heard all the time, is I don't have time. And I don't have time is like the adult version of the dog ate my homework. No, it's where, what are you prioritizing your time?
yeah.
And if you can't prioritize 5 minutes, that's a separate conversation
It is, and
because
we've told people in the past, open up the battery app on your phone in the settings and look at how much time you've scrolled on social media or everything else, and you can't tell me you can't steal 5 minutes or 10 minutes away from that. I went over with my students because I think I'm going to get the number wrong. I feel like, but the average kid ages, I think it was like 10 to 13, spends 6 hours a day on screens. And they're in school for 7 of those hours.
yeah.
So, and I know I have some students that come in with bags under their eyes because they played Fortnite until 2 in the morning. And then they wonder why they can't pay attention in class.
It's
It's
hard.
tough.
Yeah.
It's
And
tough. Um,
technology is at our fingertips. It's everywhere. And, I think I'm out of the norm that my kids don't really have a tablet. The only time they have a tablet is when they're traveling. Otherwise, like we're outside, we're,
yeah, no, I think
playing
that's good.
sports or like we're just doing others reading books.
Yeah, I was going to say they could read a book or
Yeah.
build something. Legos are
Yeah.
a go-to.
Yeah.
Um,
We take my
yeah.
stability ball and we do like mega kickball, the stability ball outside.
Oh, I was going to say,
Yeah.
is that outside or is that inside? Because I
Yeah.
see
And I
paintings and
have my
stuff.
gym set up. So I train a lot, my in-person clients, which I don't have a lot. Most of it's remote.
Yeah.
I train them in my garage. So I have a whole like gym set up. So we do kids gym. So,
Oh, that's fun.
yeah, I just want to get them used to using equipment correctly and then with good form, but also they're like very competitive with each other. So we'll do like intervals of like 30 seconds. And they love it. They're like, Mom, can we do kids gym again? I'm like, yeah, like I want them, the other day they took out the ab roller, which is like the little wheel of pain. That thing
Oh, yeah.
is intense.
Yep.
They love it. They think it's the best thing ever. Okay, great. And then it was the summertime. We had our winter sleds up. So my daughter, squatted 3 pounds into her sled. my son squatted 10 pounds into his sled, and we live on a hill, and they were going up and down the hill on the sled, carrying the sled back and forth. They were smoked in 10 minutes.
Oh yeah.
So
That's
it's that whole,
fun. Is your husband this way too with fitness?
he, yes, but it's different. Like he's more, so he would, when he first started with fitness, he was a marathon runner. And then he
Oh,
went into like doing a marathon to like strongman, you
yes,
know?
I was gonna say I saw pictures on the Instagram of you, and he's a big dude.
Yeah.
Like he doesn't look like a marathon runner to me.
No, not anymore.
No.
And he was like, I was a $130 in college. I was like, really? I was like,
Wow.
wow.
Yeah,
Like,
no.
yeah. But so, yeah, so he's been like different. He's like allergic to cardio now. So like he won't do any, but he likes to weight train. And we actually met, when I was competing, and he was doing like the backstage work because he was stationed at Rutgers doing
Oh, okay.
ROTC as a professor. And that's how we met. So we met when I was competing, which seems like another lifetime ago, but we just did a show together. He's like, hey, would you ever start compete again? I'm like, oh, I don't know. I don't know if I want to do
But
that
doing
again.
it
He's
together, that's because from the people I've spoken to, it's
intense.
yeah, and everybody gets cranky and brutal by the end. But if you're going through it with somebody, you can't hold nothing's personal at that point in time. It's
It was
just,
a lot.
yeah.
Yeah. He's like, he ate like 5 slices of pizza the week before. And I was like, he's like shredded, and I'm just eating my like fish and
Yeah, you're
whatever.
fishing,
Like,
that's it. And
oh,
yeah.
yeah. But I don't know. I don't, there were so many great parts about competing, but there was also a lot of, because it is so extreme. And when you are a high performer, it really totaled my body in the hormone department. Like
Oh,
it crushed me.
I
Yeah.
can imagine
So I
getting
had
the
to,
body fat percentage down that
yeah,
low.
I was 9%. That was still too much.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's yeah, that's I mean for a woman especially because the percentages are very different between guys and girls. That's
Yeah. Yeah.
incredibly low.
So, and then it's also like the extracurricular stuff that you have to do to stay competitive, right? Like if you're going
Not
NPC,
cheap
like
either. And buying
no,
all the outfits
my suit
and
was $500.
yeah,
Like a
it's cheap.
bedazzled dental floss. That's what it
Yeah,
was.
yeah,
Like,
it's not for coverage, that's for sure.
no,
That's
it's not
wow.
something I'm posting on LinkedIn. That's for sure.
No, no, I don't think that goes with the LinkedIn algorithm very well.
No.
Are you done with
Maybe,
that though? Is that part of your life over, you think?
yeah, I mean, I guess you can never say never because I thought I
Yeah,
said
yeah.
never before. And then I came back at 43 after having my kids when I was geriatric because I had my son when I was 37, my daughter when I was 40. And,
Geriatric. Don't do
I,
that.
I'm telling you, it was in my medical records,
What?
geriatric.
They,
Yes.
I'm sorry for laughing, but that's
Yes. They call
ridiculous.
that after 35, you're geriatric. You're like advanced maternal age.
Wow.
But yeah, so I got pregnant in Bahrain, which we lived in the Middle East. So that picture right there,
Oh, I
right
see.
over
Yep.
here, is from Bahrain. It
If you're
was
not watching on YouTube, you
interesting.
don't get to see the picture. Sorry. Go over to
Yeah,
YouTube.
sorry. So it was amazing. I loved living there. But because they didn't have the right medical attention, I had to come back home
Yeah.
when I was 6 months pregnant with my 3-year-old, deliver by myself, and he was still deployed. So, yeah. And I had to redo my business probably, 5 times. Like I've lost a lot because I didn't have it set up for our lifestyle. Every time we moved, I lost all of my clients.
Oh, I
So,
gotcha.
yeah, so I had to like, that's what I told you before, like COVID, I hate to say this and I don't want to sound insensitive, but
No,
it was
no,
the best thing that happened to my business.
there can be silver linings for sure.
You had to pivot. And in
Yeah.
our industry, if you're brick and mortar and owning a gym, you got crushed,
Yeah.
right? If you're training people in person, you got crushed. But if you knew how to run things virtually and remote, you're leaving a lot on the table if you don't do that, right? And in
Yeah.
my particular aspect, like had to because I lost everything many times. I just had to figure out a different way.
Sounds like you have, though. It sounds like that's working. You're going to
LinkedIn,
Spain,
LinkedIn
and
is where it's at.
yeah, yes.
Yeah.
I'm gonna have to pick your brain on a few pointers there. But
Oh,
it'll be
absolutely. Yeah.
great going to Spain. You still have, I mean, not the ones in person. I'm sure you're wonderful, but a trip to Spain to work out 3 times a week might not be in the cards for
I
some of
mean, it
that.
might be a little bit like costly, but you know,
Maybe it's worth
um,
it. Maybe it's worth it.
yeah. But I did launch my group coaching when we lived in Bahrain, and Bahrain is. Are you familiar with Bahrain at
I've
all? I don't want
never
to.
heard of it
Okay,
before in my life.
so it's like this little tiny island off the coast of Saudi Arabia, um, and it's. And a lot of people think like the Middle East is very desert, which it is. So like the mainland of Bahrain was all desert. Like you go in, it looks like Star Wars. Like it's just white
Oh,
buildings and
yes.
sand everywhere. You're like, what is going on?
Love that you
And
made a
then,
Star Wars reference during this too, though. That's good
yeah,
points.
just like you're like, what is going on? Because it's I've never landed in like any place like this
Yeah.
before. I lived in San Diego.
Where are you originally from?
I'm from Long Island, New York.
Okay.
Yeah, Strong Island.
Oh, there you go. There you go.
Got to be the meathead, right? So
Yeah, no.
it's okay. It's all right. Um, but yeah, so we went there, and there's Amlaj, which are man-made islands. So they like dumped like a bunch of sand out and made a man-made island, but it's tropical. Like
Oh,
that's what it looked like. You would never think the Middle East would
crazy.
look that way. It was stunning.
I
Couldn't
almost
even believe
touched the
it.
screen and zoomed in with my fingers to see it closer.
Yeah. It was fantastic. And it wasn't like it was very progressive for women too. So I can run outside in a tank top and be
And that
fine,
was
right? But
that's
if I was in the mainland, I would have to be covered, because I'm not going to go to another country and not respect their
no,
culture,
yeah, of course,
So,
of course.
um, but yeah, like the food was really good. But anyway, so COVID hit, and see, I got a thumbs up from that.
Where the
Um,
heck did that come from? That's
you don't
great.
know they can do that? It's like I don't know if
Oh, are
your
you on
phone
your
do
phone?
it.
Oh, you're on your phone.
Yeah,
Yeah.
your phone. Yeah,
All right.
yeah.
All right. I
I
didn't know.
think
My daughter showed me that one. Yeah.
I think Zoom can do it too. Zoom
Zoom
and Google
can.
Meets can do it. Anyway, so Bahrain was amazing, and I had to figure out a way I can try to monetize and restart my business. So long story short, I came from the competitive world, and I was training with bodybuilders and all that stuff. And then I got pregnant, and I was like, oh, I'll just go back to like prep life after, because I
Yeah.
gained a lot of weight. My son was in the NICU. Um, we didn't know if he was going to make it. So that was really hard. And then he
Yeah.
came out of the NICU. My husband left for deployment. So it was a big kind of like a lot of stuff going on. And then we
Yeah.
moved, and he deployed for like a year and a half. And I was just with my son in another state, didn't know anybody, just trying to like figure out like what just happened, and then also get my own life back together to make
Yeah.
myself feel comfortable in my own skin again. And I was like, oh, I'll just go back to the gym. I'll do 2 a days, no big deal. Wrong.
Yeah.
My son hated the nursery. So I was like, start, stop, start, stop. And I was like, this is ridiculous. I have to figure out another way. And I just started with 4 pieces of equipment, and I worked out in playgrounds, on park benches. I started running. I like did things out of the norm because I knew that I wasn't going to like let that deter me from getting the way that I wanted to get my mind right. But I also had my son that I had to provide for, and
Yeah.
if I wasn't physically strong, I couldn't be the best for him. So I just developed this program and just started jotting everything down, doing all my nutrition with him, and I sat on it for 2 years. And then we moved to Bahrain in the middle of COVID. And that's when the world stopped. And I launched this remote program because I've been COVID training for 2 years, and I just
I
launched it.
know. That's
Yeah.
awesome. And I love the fact that you don't need to go to a gym. You don't need fancy equipment. You don't need any weight. If you like, you can do body weight exercises. You can
We
do,
should use your kid as a weight
you
safely.
can milk
I used to use a
jugs. Like,
kettlebell. They love
yeah,
it. I think it's the best thing
they
ever.
do love it. They never want to stop though, which is the problem. So
You could
it's,
do presses. You could do like rotations, like
yeah,
then go to the
medicine ball
playground.
throws,
Yeah.
I'm glad though that you were able to pivot like that, because that can be terrifying, I imagine, trying to get everything going and then realizing like, all right, let's figure this out, let's do it. But
Yeah,
it
I mean, I
seems
was
like the attitude you took getting everything going for you is exactly what the people you're working with need, in the
yes,
fact that
and they
you can
travel a
relate
lot,
to them.
right? So I'm
Yeah.
like, okay, you have a hotel room. I In the military, when you move, there's a quota you can stay in hotel rooms for sometimes months without housing. So it
Oh
just
yeah.
depends. So you have to be crafty, and you don't need a lot. You can work with a little. But the thing
Bring a
is
set
like,
of
are
bands for $20 on Amazon with you, and they're small. They fit in a
easy,
suitcase. Yeah.
easy day. And like just make it a priority. That's the thing. It's not time management, it's priority management. And you
Yeah.
make you prioritize what you value. So there's a lot of that storyline and self-belief, especially with high performing women. They value success more than their own health. And that's a worth thing. That's a worth storyline that we have to rewrite.
Yes.
And we do a lot of that by like coming into their strength and standing strong with themselves, but also their family and who they are. And if you're not taking care of you, you can't take care of anybody.
And your success uh, is more likely to happen the healthier you are and the more you've taken care of
You're
yourself.
resilient,
Yeah.
right? Like you're resilient to stress when you are, you know, take care of yourself. You're resilient to getting sick. There's a lot of things that are the sticky why other than looking a certain way. Like that's just a nice receipt, like that's the icing
That
on the cake.
comes though. Like if that's your goal to look that way, find a good reason to get yourself healthy. That comes. Like that's
Yeah,
the byproduct of it. You're right. It's the
exactly.
cherry on top that you don't even have to. You don't try for that. That just comes along with it,
Exactly. Yeah.
which is awesome. Um, so I appreciate you taking the time. I know it's
Yeah.
late, so I don't want to take up too much more. But
Oh, no, it's great.
how can people get in touch with you? What's the best way for them to
So I
connect?
have a website. It's www.christinelaVopa.com. I also have LinkedIn, Christine LaVopa. I have an Instagram, Christine_LaVopa. So
Oh,
if you
you got
just type in,
creative on that one. I like it.
I just wanted to keep it consistent,
Yeah, no,
because then it's easy to
that makes
find
sense.
and then that's like your brand. So what I've been also doing is that I just started on LinkedIn probably like a little over a year ago. My husband made me an account and I was like, I'm not using this. I came from 10 years of using Instagram. I built a following.
Yeah,
Like, there's no way I'm going to be able to do this on LinkedIn. So told my inner critic to sit the F down. And I just
appreciate
said,
you censoring yourself there. That was nice of you.
yeah, sit down. Yeah, I know I could drop F bombs, but anyway, so I just knew who I was talking to, and I grew like these are kind of vanity metrics, but I grew my following from like 31K in 10 years to for Instagram and 27K in a year on LinkedIn.
I saw that. That in LinkedIn numbers versus Instagram numbers are way different.
Way different,
Yeah,
much different community, but the connectivity to be a connector on LinkedIn to get to know your people. And you also get this deeper level of like who you're talking to, and you're a little bit more vetted. I think
yeah.
your credibility, what you're saying, and also it's from a revenue perspective, I was able to make 4 times more revenue on LinkedIn than Instagram.
Well, the
So what
LinkedIn audience are business professionals as opposed to Instagram. Not that they're not aren't professionals there, but you go to LinkedIn for a very different reason.
different reason. And high performing women, they're going to be on LinkedIn,
Yes.
right? So I already had like what I was doing. So what I'm also doing is I'm helping health coaches monetize from Instagram to LinkedIn because if they're on Instagram, being a health coach, you're like this little Nemo in this big ocean,
Yeah.
right? There's so many people out there, right? And it's a lot of entertainment based stuff, right?
Yeah.
You come to LinkedIn, it's different. So anyway, I'm helping health coaches learn how to monetize on LinkedIn and take up some of that white space because we can do it on LinkedIn. It's just a certain way. There's a secret sauce to it, and to get to your own people, and you could do it all remote. If you're not on LinkedIn as a health coach, you're leaving a lot of revenue and connecting with the right people on the table.
And there are millions of people on LinkedIn too. So it's not like there's a shortage of people. It's not like someone else coming on that you're helping is going to steal someone from you. There's unlimited much.
Yeah.
So,
So
all
that
right.
was a
Well, I
long
will
answer.
put all
Yes.
your information in the show notes. It'll be in the newsletter. Oh, and I'm completely putting you on the spot.
Yeah.
But I would love to put a couple micro habits in the newsletter, do like one a
Sure.
week. I don't know if you want to give me like 3 or 4 that I can spread out over a month or so.
So
And
one of them is called a movement snack. Like, how cool is that, right?
yeah, that's
So you
good.
take 5 minutes of any type of movement that you're going to do away from technology, away from your computer, away from work, away from something. So you get that mental reset inside of that micro habit, right? And you can do that 3 times a day. That's 15 minutes right there,
Yeah.
right? Another micro movement snack could be taking a walk after a meal. That's also a micro habit. So one you can do also if you're having a lot of times, falling asleep. I know as high performers, sometimes we overthink a lot of things. Do a brain dump, data dump. Don't organize it. Don't do anything. Take 5 minutes to step away from your work and just let that whatever's in here flow out, because then that releases some of that energy and you can get it out on paper. Another one is to do a 5-minute micro habit of that yoga nidra before bed. So that will help you get into that from sympathetic to parasympathetic, which is your rest and digest. So it's also related to the type of sleep that you get. So when you do this yoga nidra, it's linked to deeper sleep and a better REM cycle. So for men, REM cycles are really important because that at the end of like 4 a.m., that's when your peak testosterone hits. So if you're waking up before 4 a.m. and you're not getting that full REM cycle, if you're not
Yeah.
sleeping long enough, then your testosterone can tank by 70% one day.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's quite a bit.
So I learned that a lot when working with tactical athletes because they're always not sleeping.
Yeah. That
So,
makes sense. That
and
makes
high
sense.
stress jobs. And then, when you're doing your morning time, take 5 minutes to set yourself up for nutrition. Like, what are you taking for the day? Maybe you do it the night before, so you don't have to worry about it in the morning. And another one, put some type of protein in your breakfast. That takes 5 minutes, whether it's eggs, whether it's plant-based protein, whatever that's going to be, start with 20 to 30 grams. And that's going to set you up for success for the rest of the day.
Such a difference. It really, really does. I love those. I started like an idiot writing them down, and then like, wait, I'm recording this. I can just listen to it later.
Honestly, you can anytime just be like, hey, what are you going to do? I think I'm going to actually make this like just something that people can download, because
Yeah, I think
it
that would be
seems
awesome.
so simple, and it is, right? You're like, you can Google this stuff if you really wanted to, right? But it's the execution part that gets like lost.
And it's 5 minutes. You can do
5 minutes.
Yeah.
And maybe write down your intentions for the day. How did you start? How did you end? That takes like 3 minutes.
Yeah. And
Have a little bit of
self-reflection
accountability.
is huge. That piece of it all, in not waiting like a month. You set a goal and wait a month to see, like daily check-ins. Like it
Daily accountability. If you have a coach, they help you with that.
Yeah. ChristineLaVopa.com. Check it out.
Exactly. A little
Awesome.
fun there. But yeah, it's just, you don't have to make it complicated. You don't need a fancy diet. You don't need this new fat burning exercise, which doesn't even exist. Like, you don't need these things, and instant gratification will get you so far. But keep in mind that you are a luxury brand, and luxury brands aren't built in one day. You're expensive, and invest in your health, because if you're looking at it from a professional, health and fitness are not a personal hobby, it's a professional advantage. So if you look at that as your health as a professional advantage, and that's one of your goals is to be successful, that will pay back tenfold because it has a huge ROI. Dip into your daily savings account and your health account. Just keep cashing it in, because that's going to pay back tenfold.
I love it. Well, thank you so much for joining us. All that information will be in the show notes, so you don't have to write it down furiously while you're listening.
She's like, if she's talking too fast. From New York, I know it.
That word. But again, thank you all for listening. We're trying to grow the show a little more on YouTube, so if you can give that normal tagline like, subscribe, comment. I'd appreciate it. Share with some of your friends who you think might enjoy the show or might benefit from it. So thank you all. Thank you, Christine. Best of
Thank
luck to you
you.
in Spain, but I'm sure we'll be in touch before
Yes. Yes. I'll be here till June too.
then.